Hello everybody, welcome back to another breakdown. Today we are going to go over a situation that you will 100% find yourself in, and it is not fun. If you're not prepared for it, it is not fun. And that is shooting people or scenes inside of doorways or at doorways of a house. Somebody opens the door, you're gonna have a conversation back and forth. This is where a lot of material gets shot here. A lot of things happen here, even though you don't think, oh, this is a spot where a lot of stuff goes down. It is. And it is really tricky, or can be tricky to light if you don't plan for it. So we looked at this not too long ago over on the Patreon group where we had a big deep dive into just how to deal with this stuff. But I randomly saw this commercial and it had a scenario just like this that I wanted to look at. This one was shot by Peter, I cannot remember. It is escaping me, but I will put it down in the show notes links. Peter shot Empire Strikes Back, I think. So he's been around for a good long time and does obviously really great stuff. So we're going to see how he tackles the problem. So if we just play this commercial through, you'll be able to see some of the things that are going on. Comes to the door, little Pulp Fiction remake here, and it looks nice, it's a little bit slick, very stylized, right? This is studio-based stuff, very Hollywood slick and not very naturalistic, which we've done some naturalistic stuff lately on the channel, but this is a little bit more polished, I guess I would say. And then we're out. Okay, so that's the ad. Overall, basic looking ad for insurance or whatever it is. But these are the situations that you're going to come across. We're going to see how they did it. Okay, we go to full screen. Whoops. We go to full screen from here, and we're going to get the doorbell knock. So let's play that out. Where is my mouse? Why isn't anything happening? Here we go. There it is. Okay. So this is the basic doorbell knock. We scroll forward up, button ring. What do we see immediately? Immediately we see the framework, right? It's just a hand. It's just a hand. It's not a face. It's not a whole scene. How are we going to light this? That's the question. Well, let's just use the framework here. So we're going to take this backlight. This becomes a credit card shot, right? We're going to light this way, shadow this way towards camera. You get that cool blue that is nighttime. No or very little fill back in here to create that shadow. And then we also see the frame of the door. We've got some depth here. We're shooting into this little thing here. We've got light, dark, light, dark, dark, light, right? Just creating some little points of interest. So even on these little tiny insert shots, you can still use the same principles and the same, if you still think about bringing the sources from the same positions and how that's going to look, it still works out just as well in these little tinier shots. And from there, boom. Okay, this is the hard part, right? We are in the doorway. Now, why is this tricky? Because guy answering door, right? Where are you going to bring the light from? There's a couple of different ways you can do it, but Peter here has done something very interesting with the blocking of the talent. And this is why I wanted to show this one, because we didn't do this over on the Patreon channel. We didn't have an opportunity to look at something like this and the way to solve the problem like Peter did. We're setting these people in the doorway, both our man in here and Harvey. We're going to set them both really deep into the house, right? Really deep into the house. So the guy that answers the door, he's going to open the door, but he's also going to step back so that we have enough room over here to actually hit him with light. Because you can imagine if you just pulled the door open and you were standing even with the door, well, you're right in the worst spot because no light can get in because you're surrounded by door frame. Right? So you can't get any side light in, you can't get any light in over the door. It's just an awkward position to be in. So you have to, if you're gonna have that conversation, either the person inside has to step out or the person outside has to step in, right? Weird that someone would step in from the outside if you were at your house, unless it was like a break-in movie or something. Normally, it's the opposite way. Normally the person that answers the door slightly comes out. If they both go back, then you create this gap in between them that can sometimes look a little bit weird. But here, we're on the side, which is, again, an interesting choice. We're on the side, right? We were just over the hand in that previous shot. So the hand was coming this way, right? And then we were looking that way. Now we've swapped over to the other shoulder. We're not looking from that shoulder in. We're gonna see why in a second. But that means that if we're lighting from this way, which we have to, because this door is in the way, and if we light this way, we're not gonna get to see the key light, right? Because the door will be blocking it. So we have to be over this shoulder. We're going to light them from this way because, again, the door would block any light going the other way. But then we're also going to add a little edge there. For Harvey here, we're going to set up the key coming from this direction. So we're just going to play it really down. Just a little bit of level in there. You can see it on the wall. But you start to see it's not that great of a shot because we have so much light coming from downstage. Like there's so much coming back at it. It's hard to create interest. The good part about this setup is we see into the house. So you get your little practical on in the background, creating a little point of interest. You get stairs coming down that are nicely lit up. So you get these little highlights there. But this is just a tricky setup for this shot. We cut to the feet and magically, I don't know if you're watching this, magically the light goes from this way on Harvey to, in the feet shot, it's coming the other way. All right, you're getting this little highlight here, rain in the background at the studio. We got a little edge light here, and all of this light has been cut off. That was lighting him in the face here. That's just been cut off, right? This light just disappeared. And that's good because we don't need it because we're shaping. The point of interest is the water rushing out and the feet. So how do we make that look interesting? From there, we go to this one. Now this is the big one, right? This is the one that creates all of the problems because number one, he's got an umbrella, which is going to cover up his little backlight. But also look at how close his face is to inside of this house, right? How many people stand that close to somebody's door when they ring? Maybe Harvey. But other than that, not many, right? But why do that? Well, it solves the problem of how are we going to light him up? Are we going to light him up from the outside? Or are we going to light him up from the inside, which is what we're doing here. And Peter's lighting him up from the inside. So he steps forward, clear of the frame. So now the frame becomes, not only is it like a compositional point, but it's also going to do us some favors. We got our key light up here, given all of this. You can see there's a little bit of shadow here, but not much, right? So it's fairly fronty. But look at the balance of the light as it blends into the darkness and then quickly blends into the backlight. And that backlight, same color as what we had seen before, same edging here where you're looking into the darkness. Again, this is framework stuff, right? Key coming this way, darkness this way, little tiny edge, even though this is quite, it's quite a big edge, which means it comes down his face quite a bit. And you get that because you bring the light this way. The more you push the light this way, the more it's going to stay off of this cheek and more just on the back of the head or on the shoulders. And then we also have just a little faint, like practical glow here to add some interest, right? Which is a nice little touch, like it's a porch light. But then again, look at how down this guy's face is, right? Remember, it was just lit up like a Christmas tree previously in this shot. Boom, lit up like a Christmas tree, and ta-da, it's not even there. No light whatsoever. And then look at inside. This door looks nice because it's against this dark figure of a man. But then also through the glass, you get some interesting bits. Whereas you go back here, and there's nothing, right? There's nothing there as you go through because now you can see the wall in the background. There's, again, straight back to the shot. Like we go from Harvey Keitel, back of his head. And this one, still looking good, right? Still same setup as well. We've got key, but then you also have that little bit of reflectiveness. We go forward, no eye light, nothing there. You could put something in if you wanted to. The way that, you could do this the other way is you could be on the opposite shoulder, right? You could have been on the opposite shoulder this whole time. That would make this shot look more in the world of framework, right? Because you wouldn't be filling in quite as much. You'd also be on the dark side of Harvey if you didn't go with the practical there. If you didn't go with that practical in the previous shot, this little light here. If you didn't do that, you could be on the opposite side. Okay, keep scrolling through. See how far back he is sitting on the door? This little gap here, that's what you need to do. You need to really push him far back. And checks the watch. Yep, good to go. We come back even wider. Now you really feel like this door frame really causes you to only be able to light from the side. So that's why you need that little edge, because without that, it just gets really dark really fast because you can't reach the light around that much because of the doorway. Water starts coming down. Then we're into the bathroom, and this is like fairly Hollywood, right? Like there's a backlight in the bathroom. There's this big, giant, broad, soft light. This is where we're in the studio. People want to look good. This is our Hollywood star here. Let's just make them look as good as we can. You hit them with the beautiful lighting. And then that light turns around, right? When you come into the studio, turns around, but look at where the top light is placed, right? Just like in the locker room breakdowns that we've done or any of the breakdowns that we've done, the top light, the edge backlight is going to be between the background wall and the talent. It's not going to be between the talent and the camera, right? Because that is going to fill in all of this stuff, and we don't want it filled in. We want this little tiny edge So it just creates that point of interest to look at. Okay, keep scrolling through, more Hollywood. Look at this reflection in his head. Giant actor, too close to the lamp. And come down. Look at that jumping contrast too, right? We go from this edge, lots of filliness here, a little bit of darkness in the middle, but just look at the contrast, right? Real bright, dark in the middle. We come out to the wide and significantly flatter, right? Because you just have more area to light, you're not gonna be able to get that precise. So when you're looking at it on the day and you're like, man, this just doesn't feel like it matches. Well, that's normal, right? It's just not supposed to match. You're supposed to get in the general world, but as long as each shot looks good, it sort of takes care of itself. And then, yeah, that big, giant, broad, soft light on Harvey there. And we're out. Look at how it all it all turns around when he goes this way. Like it's nowhere near the same world. Where is that light? That big 12 by 12 that is lighting them up in the other shot. Just, you know, people forget about it. There. Where's that light gone? Boom. Nobody cares. That's the whole point. Okay, so an interesting take on how to shoot inside of doorways. If you're going to do doorways, just think about the positioning of the actors and how early in the conversation you can offer some ideas up of how to maybe make something look slightly better. Like you want to make sure you know which way the door opens up and be on the right shoulder. And if you're doing exteriors, you want to see exactly what's going to be in the background, because that's what you're going to be fighting against when you're inside of doorways. Is how do you get enough level? How do you get enough level everywhere else based on what you can get on their face, right? Because it is about controlling those ratios, especially like this shot, especially during the day. This is the much easier shot. It's this one that is hard during the day. You know, and again, here Peter does something good where he's filling the entire back of the frame, right? Because we're in a studio, he's filling the back of the frame. If we weren't in a studio on location, you just have to be aware for the schedule purposes of what is in this background and the angle of the sun relative to that background, because you don't want the sun blasting into the background, because that's going to require a lot more level locally on the day to get Harvey to this sort of exposure. So something to think about. Okay, hopefully it helps. We will see you in the next one. Goodbye.